All right, everybody. I'm excited to be here with Mira Rao, and we're going to be talking about joyful productivity. So, hopefully, by the end of this conversation, you'll feel inspired by some insights, some tips about how do we work more joyfully and effectively as what I like to call soulpreneurs, which Mira and I both are. And also, this conversation was brought together because Mira had this idea of a collaboration between us. Mira knows my joyful productivity stuff, and given that Mira is in Australia, um, a lot of my calls are not at at a good time zone for her. So she's like, what if we did a program for a different time zone or the Australia Asia time zone that also fits, of course, with America's in the evening. And I said, oh, that's an interesting idea. And also Mira brings a lot of somatic training and wisdom and experience in bringing sort of an embodiment to personal growth and joyful productivity. So I thought this is going to be interesting. So joyful productivity is not just going to be about ideas that you apply from your head, but rather something that's actually deeply embodied in our being. Mira can say a lot more about this. So, in fact, for those of you who don't know Mira well, Mira, I would love for you just to introduce yourself, however you'd like. Tell us about your experience, what your passion is, and what you envision it means to be embodying joyful productivity.
Hello. So good to be here with you, George. I'm really excited. And I instantly forgot those questions, but I will let what comes come because
Yes,
so
perfect.
many, so many, so many ideas came into my head. So I will introduce myself first. And my official title is Resilience and Embodiment Coach. And that came out of my own journey and my professional journey, really seeing that to live fully fruitful, purposeful, authentic lives, the journey of recovering from trauma and just being human, going through a human childhood, really required the cultivation of resilience, but in a way that is not, like you said in your beautiful introduction, not mental and not rigid, that is really about how we feel in the world, how we feel in ourselves. And that's where the embodiment piece comes in, and understanding the nervous system and how to regulate it, and basically how to be with ourselves, inside ourselves, in a kind of centered and present way as we meet all of the challenges that life brings, whatever version of life we might be living.
Yes, great. Now, I want to also have you share with the audience about just very quickly your journey from, I mean, when we first met, you were just starting
Yes.
to be some, resilience embodiment, you know, counselor, coach, etc. And just in the span of a few years, you built up a full-time practice,
Yes.
very full, and you also got a therapist certification,
Master degree in counseling.
master's in counseling, exactly.
Yes.
And you were, I mean, you for sure you needed joyful productivity all throughout, and you also, of course, having so much on your plate, experience the danger of burnout and the recovery from that. And so I feel like your journey is not just the fact that you help people with this stuff, but you had to embody it and go through sort of cycles yourself, right?
So well said, George. And I was remembering when we first met, do you remember all of my social media? I launched and then all of my social media got hacked and taken down. It was July of 2021. And you were really instrumental in encouraging me to keep going and to model the resilience, right? It was such a teachable moment of like, all right, put your money where your mouth is, Mira. What does resilience mean in the life that you've chosen for yourself? And that really struck me. And I love how you framed it, that I absolutely needed joyful productivity over those 4 or 5 years because I'd entered a new relationship. I was launching a business. I was doing a master's degree and I was building the practice, my practice as a practitioner
And you
alongside
also moved.
side. Yeah,
You also
I
moved houses.
moved. I bought an apartment
Yeah.
and moved in. Yeah. So apparently that's a lot to do in 4 years, George.
Yeah, just back to what you said about the social media being hacked. I mean, I haven't had the hack experience myself, thankfully, but I've seen enough people get hacked and like it derails their business and their kind of self-esteem and their sense of safety online so much
Yeah.
that that's why I was so honestly like I was admiring how you were getting through all that. And it was like this is what she does and this is what she teaches and this is what she's doing, you know, what she's
Yeah.
teaching. And so I think that's a really big deal because it's like someone it's like you had a physical store and someone came and like destroyed it, you know, and then you had to
Yeah.
rebuild, you had to restart over. And it's not even starting over at the same place, starting over in a different town because you had to like it's like when your online presence gets hacked, then you have to like start a new account and tell everybody to come here and all the hundreds or thousands of people following you there had to like eventually find you in the other place. Anyway, so I thought that was pretty amazing. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Tell me, just share little bit about the work you've been doing with clients over the past couple of years. What kind of
Yeah.
work? Yeah.
I really want to speak to the embodiment again. Gosh, my mind is just lighting up with like the mental review I'm doing right now of where I was and what I was doing at that time, and then all of what I've threaded in through my own professional journey and reflections and the dissertation I did, my master's degree, and how that sort of landed to where we are now and the conversation that we're having. My emphasis, well, I might actually talk about my framework, which I started creating with you, George. Which is the embodied living method. And the work I do with clients goes through 3 phases essentially. And everyone is unique and maps and travels through this process a little bit differently. And that's part of the emphasis that I have is on customizing everything, right? As we go through, there's a framework, there's a model, but I don't squeeze human beings into a framework and a model. I adapt the framework and the model to meet people where they are. But there's still a pattern of that kind of healing journey. And in the embodied living method, it's embodied loving is phase 1, living is phase 2, and leading is phase 3. And so in embodied loving, it's really that initial mental and somatic flip from my body's betraying me, I overreact to things, I'm too nervous about things, I can't do what I want in life, and there's something wrong with me. The experience in the room, in the clinic room of embodied loving is that's my job, that's my role, is to embody that energy of love with literally with my energy, with my nervous system, and to teach them the mental frameworks that explain what is happening. So when we understand nervous system regulation, when we understand childhood trauma, and we get that message in a felt sense from the practitioner, from me, there's nothing wrong with you. You make sense. We get to embody that ourselves, right? So that's the experience of embodied loving. But I'm already teaching frameworks, understandings, mental maps, and helping them as they witness the difference between when my body is shutting down, I'm going into dissociation, or I'm going into nervousness, or I'm going into self-criticism. And now I'm in a space of love. We get to experience that together and they get to watch it at the same time. So that's really one of the unique things I think about the way that I work, is bringing those 2 things together. Embodied living is how do I do that again, Mira, on a daily basis in my life? So that phase is where we start to look at That's where your stuff really comes in, the joyful productivity. How do I embody this experience of being kind to myself, regulating my nervous system, understanding that the patterns that are showing up don't mean there's something wrong with me, but there's some little tweaking I need to do to my brain and nervous system. And if I do that on a regular basis, so nervous system regulation, getting to a more baseline experience of regulation and resilience requires repetition. So it has to happen. There are a couple of other ways, but that's one of the key ones is like, apparently the research says about 6 times a day, you got to re-regulate your nervous system. I know you and I do a lot more than that. But for the actual synaptic connections, for the actual formation of a more resilient network in your brain to happen and nervous system, it needs repetition over time. Then embodied leading, phase 3. It's all very well to be super regulated in your bedroom, but going out into the world and working or having relationships with your partners or your family or your friends as this new version of yourself. So what I noticed with clients was that they would learn it, they would feel good, but then they'd be like, my life doesn't fit anymore, but I don't know how to create the new life and I don't know how to be myself inside this. So embodied leading really looks at what I kind of started with. How do I stay in this knowledge now of who I am when I'm not just a bundle of reactions, when I'm actually leading from authenticity, when I'm leading from my true self, because a lot of the healing has happened, but there's still patterns and conditioning that will rise up when that meets the world outside. So embodied leading really looks at that piece. So I guide clients through that.
That's amazing. And the great thing is that you not just came up with this, but it's a culmination of decades of your own passionate research, work with others, work with other practitioners, obviously your studies as well, and then working with your clients and like noticing and like all of that brought together into this model that is so simple, but it's so profound as well. Each of these layers and how they fit together. Yeah.
May I tell you a story about that,
Yeah,
George?
please.
Because I love that you highlighted the depth of this. And thank you for saying it's simple, because that's my aspiration, is that I communicate it in this clear way. But when I did my dissertation to explain, because I had a beautiful research lecturer and she came from the arts and politics background, but she was supervising counseling students in their research projects. She was like, I don't know much about this area, but I like how you talk about what you do, Mira. What about if you made your research project just to talk to me, tell me how it happens, what happens inside of the session that facilitates this change, that facilitates this growth. So to your point about my own lived experience, the years of research, and what I've discovered in those times, the neurospicy brain stuff, I built a matrix on my whiteboard tracking all of that. And I had a column that was, and I might send it to you in the show notes. We can illustrate it. I had columns, my personal growth, my intellectual growth, my clinical experience, mapped year by year from 2017 to 2023 when I submitted it. Even though there was way more, as you said before, then that was the real like conscious model. And that board, oh my God, I'm going to give you the visual. Scroll and scribble fill the entire wall. And all of that has been crystallized and condensed into this model, this method.
It's amazing. And your clients get to benefit from that.
Yes.
So
hey, George.
Yeah.
You haven't told him about you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for asking. No, I thought since you shared about your framework, I thought, okay, maybe I should share briefly about the joyful productivity framework as well, since I just kind of started talking about that. But what the heck is that? And how it came to me was in 2008, when I was graduating from my master's in business. I found myself just even through the master's program, helping my classmates get organized because there's a lot going on in the master's program, as you know. And then not only that, but in the there's a business master's program. So we were also working for different companies. Like we had teams, and like there was a lot to organize, and they had their own personal lives, and sometimes some of them have jobs. So I was helping my colleagues get organized. And they're like, "You're God, anyway, thank you for doing this. And you should go out and do this on your, do this as a thing," right? I'm like, "Oh, really? I'm just having fun here, helping you all, clear your inboxes or organize all your knowledge and how to like, work with more just kind of thoughtfulness to things and not so much stress." And then and when after I graduated, I went to work with a media agency. I also found myself doing that kind of organizational role there. Okay. And then I was a chief operating officer, but this is like a really small company. So I basically had to handle a lot of admin, basically is what I did. And then I decided to go out on my own, become a coach. And the first thing I called myself back in 2009 when I started my own thing, again at the encouragement of my classmates and colleagues, was I called myself a productivity coach. And a lot of people don't know that. That was my very first title, productivity coach. But I'm like, you know what? I want to bring, I always felt like, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? Like, and you know, we agree on that together. And I'm sure many people watching this. So I'm like, how do I bring like my authentic the desire for bringing spirit into sort of daily life into my business? So I'm like, okay, no, it's not just productivity, it's joyful productivity. Because when we, connect with spirit and kind of regulate ourselves with our, divine connection, things become much more joyful. So that's how joyful productivity came into being. My very first client was my very first couple of clients. Again, I was working with productivity type things and trying to bring some joy into it. And eventually, when I started to, I started to, my colleagues and classmates by that point were coming to me and asking for, marketing advice. And this is 2009. Because they noticed I was really good at social media. They wanted me to help them with that. So I started helping them with it. And so that really became my main thing. And then the joyful productivity thing was always like something that I helped them with, like for fun as a bonus. Eventually, of course, my clients said, "Can you like teach us about this, like put it into a framework of some kind?" So that's really how it started. So 17 years later now that we're talking, it has gone through many iterations. It's kind of sprawled out into this big thing. I need to learn from you, Mira, and make it into a three-piece, three-layer cake instead of like 18 layers or whatever. But I'll just
I
briefly,
got you, George.
yeah, yeah, thank you. I'll briefly walk through seven layers of the joyful productivity cake. And I'm not gonna, just kind of spend like half a minute each, something like that. So just to give people an idea of what joyful productivity entails. So the first one I always like talking about, which Mira, you'll resonate with this, is the energy reboots, right? Which you said, studies show that's awesome. 6 times regulating a day is like maybe baseline healthy or whatever. And I just started doing this thing called energy reboots about 12, 15 years ago. And what that was is people can look it up. I have YouTube videos about it. I have articles about it. Just Google energy reboot. Literally, if you Google it, you'll find my articles and videos. It's like it's a 30-second, essentially self-regulation practice. Okay. I didn't know about self-regulation. I just knew that I had to do something to like come back to, connection with divine source, etc. Okay. So that's the first one. The second one was capture. The second one was, how do I organize? How do I relate to the overwhelm of information that comes at me and all of us every day, and then put that into some kind of system so that we can act on it? And so I came up with this idea called capture, categorize, calendar. Again, people can Google that. I have an article, YouTube videos about it, etc., that describe everything. So capture, categorize, calendar is how I think about how information comes into the phone, my computer, ideas that I have in my head. all that gets the ones that seem interesting anyway, get captured and then categorized in a regular kind of rhythm, and then calendared, not the individual items, but the categories get calendared. Anyway, that's the second thing. Third thing is, as a business owner, a solopreneur, which many of us watching this are, there's so much to do, so many hats that we wear. Sometimes I'm a content creator hat. Sometimes I'm a webinar speaker. Sometimes I'm a client services person. Sometimes I'm a bookkeeper. All these hats. I said, I want to not have to always reinvent the wheel and think so hard every time I switch roles in my business. So I came up with something called a hat manual, which is like whenever I do, content creation, I have written down for myself the things I definitely want to remember. Don't forget about these things. Here are the steps for how to create an article, or here's how the steps of how I create a video or whatever. So I started writing these steps down so that every time I do these things, whether it's bookkeeping or content creation, I could just pull up my hat manual for that role, that hat that I'm wearing. Strategizing my business, there's a hat manual for that. Clearing my inbox, there's a hat manual. Whatever it might be. Some hat manuals are just only a few steps, and some are longer. Like when I'm launching a course, it's a multi-page hat manual that goes over several weeks. So I started teaching clients that. They loved it. They really helped them to be relieved about their business. Next one is work rituals, which, because we all work, but then most of us are not very thoughtful about how we work. Like we might just show up at the computer and just like, all right, what do I do now? Oh, check some emails. Oh, look at my to-do list, get overwhelmed. And now it's like, what if every time you came to work, whatever that means for you, you have a tried and true ritual that you've designed from a thoughtful place and customized based on your values and your style. So that's the idea, work rituals. Next one is inbox zero, which I've been practicing since, well, something like 20 years. It's part of what I was helping my classmates with, which was, people don't believe this, but I literally have a zero inbox several times a week. Several times a week, you can check my inbox and everything is zero. There's nothing in any of them. And people go, how the hell do you do that? I have 37,000 emails in my inbox, kind of thing. I've helped plenty of people with that kind of thing. So I kind of came up with this method. One of my first clients says, George, you should just sell that method because it works so well. So inbox methods, something we teach and practice in Joy Pro, Joyful Productivity, Joy Pro. Next one is, how do we deal with the overwhelm of tasks? And I came up with this method called EASE, EASE. Again, people can Google this, EASE productivity method. And you might have to add George Cow to read my full article about that. But the 4 letters basically mean, I'll quickly walk through this. Eliminate is the first one, which is look at your task and realize that probably a lot of them don't really need to be done, actually, or don't need to be done at the kind of deadline you have given yourself. Like you can't do everything. Obviously, we all know that. And every other thing you add to your list dilutes your effectiveness and your energy for all the rest of it. So the act of eliminating is very important to learn. The next one, A, is automate. These days, it's easier and easier with AI tools for those who are willing to use that, or just software. Anyway, software tools. So what you can't eliminate, you do your best to automate or learn how to. What you can't eliminate or automate, you go to the next letter, which is share. Share that work. Share that work with somebody else. I used to call it delegate, but then the letter S came out better for the acronym. So share that work with another human being. And then if you can't eliminate, automate, or share that work with another human, the last letter is E, once again, which is to enjoy. because if you have to be the one to do it, you might as well bring joy to it. You might as well bring presence to it. Right? And then the final 7th thing I'll mention for joyful productivity is it really is the foundation of so much of it, which is to work lightly. So this is kind of a mantra that I keep bringing to my clients, my audience. Working lightly. Again, if you want to Google working lightly George Cow, you'll find several YouTube videos about it. And it's just the idea to come back. We started with energy reboots, connecting with our divine source. we come back to that at the end, which is if we, everyone has different beliefs, but I think probably all of us here, who are you and I and people watching this, we have some spiritual belief, likely, and or some belief about life somehow in the grandest way, that the universe is a safe place. And if that's true, then we can work lightly, knowing that our work really is just a stage, not just, but our work is, to me, primarily a stage for our embodiment, for our personal growth, for our resilience training. And so let's work lightly so that we don't, take things too seriously, you might say, or work ourselves to burnout. So anyway, Joy Pro, there you go.
I
Quick
love that, George.
summary.
Yeah, no, that was so good because I haven't heard you tell it like that before, right? Obviously, it's a new moment, but to give us the source, and it was really reminding me of hearing, I sort of wanted to say back to you what you said to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's like years of a natural tendency, of experience, of testing, of application that's led to the method that you bring, which, when you and I were, this is kind of the foundation of it. And I kept, like, as I was listening, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I can see where we're going to overlap and the things that are like, zinging. Because what touched me actually was thinking about what you said then at the end. What really, really deeply touched me was thinking about how a divine, if you have a spiritual practice, you have a way of tapping into and cultivating that sense of trust and that sense of okayness in the world. But if you've had a really rough start in life, that can be very interrupted. And that's where I just feel like that embodied loving piece that I was talking about is like, let's give you a blueprint. Let's give you a flavor of that feeling, that then everything you laid out, you get to practice it, right? The repetition is built into, I can practice tapping into that again here and here and here and here. And the way I do things, I can keep bringing back, either if it's more spiritual, trust in source, or self-love. And through a vehicle that I think is more understandable for many of us in Western culture in particular, which is our productivity or our work, right? If we have this kind of organizing vehicle of, I'm building something, I'm making something, I'm creating something. And through that, I'm getting this opportunity to practice the self-love, to practice that trust, and to then also give something back, right? That's, I think, you model that incredibly, like the way that you bring those principles and bring that practice into your business and then use your business also as a vehicle for service is one of the things that drew me to you when I hired you and came and saw you at the beginning, was like, yeah, I want all of that beautiful day-to-day integration of all these pieces, which is what we're going to teach, right?
Exactly. No, I thank you for saying that. I love, because the thing that you bring with the embodied living method is that this embodiment not only heals us, each individually, heals our wounds, makes us much essentially better, much more well adjusted for living effectively in society. But that embodiment is itself a healing mechanism for the people around us. The embodiment itself is a service unto our clients, our customers, our employees, our colleagues, our family and friends. And so I think that's why it's so important. I think that's why it's so important to do this, not just for your own, sense of well-being, but because every day, every moment, we're sending out ripple effects to all the people around us. Yeah. So
That's such a good point
yeah.
and so needed right now, right? I think in this age of AI, like I've even noticed it because when AI first started coming and you being you were like, right, I'm gonna like learn a ton about this and and I was like, oh thank God, because I can't touch it right now. Like, oh, I've shifted, but I've run some experiments myself around if and sure AI gets better and better, but a couple of experiments that I ran where I was getting it to help me structure or coach or try to live my human life made sense, but did not work, like did not feel good and didn't go that well. Plenty have. I do absolutely embrace it and use it in certain ways, but it's this discernment, right? And I think that the more embodied we are, the more discerning we're able to be, and that there still is a massive service in what you and I are hopefully creating here and offering and sharing around that embodiment. There's a real service in humaning and bringing a regulated nervous system, bringing a spiritually full cup, bringing that into very specifically our work in ordering ourselves in meeting life in an ordered way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So you've been hinting at this program that we're co-creating, and I would love to have you share more about it. Mira, just for those who are watching, Mira was so so kind and just saying, "Hey, listen, um, George, I just want you to show up to the program on an occasional basis. I'm going to run the program most of the time. They'll get access to your joyful productivity course so that you can enjoy everything there and study it to your heart's content. But then I get to also come into this and hold space and answer people's questions. And but yeah, tell us about it. Tell us what you envision and how does this group, and it's capped right now at a very limited number of people. Um, and that's a good thing because then a cohesive little community can form based on that. And so tell us about how you envision facilitating this and what the members will be learning to embody and practicing it together.
Well, once again, thank you for asking, George. and and you hinted at it in the beginning. And it kind of ties a few threads here together because I, God, so many conversations you and I have had in the past, but we often create the things we most need, right? And then we also, in this embodiment way, for me, embodying the resilience, I used your methods, I used my methods, and I went through a 4-year phase of intense growth. And I did do that in a loving, joyful, embodied way. And then perimenopause hit, and I did get to the verge of burnout because I had to learn a whole bunch of new things. So I was like, I need George again. Because having that container to work out my own thinking as well is really important. But I can't get him enough. Like these calls are not at a time I can attend. Again, especially with my perimenopausal verge of brain out brain. I'm like, I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. I'm not doing calls at midnight. No. So there was a selfish desire for me to have like a structure around me based in your teachings that I really like, and a readiness in me to be fair to myself. Over the past little while, I have really come through that, and I'm in a good place where I've got all the energy back and I've navigated, and I had to, again, I can model that resilience of like, ooh, all the pieces shifted on the board in a way I never expected. And here we go again. So just to give some context for that. So I wanted to have access to you. And then also because many people like myself, I tried. I'm like, I love George. I'll just watch the videos. I'll just like engage with the forum boards. Can't do it. I need the energy of the person, talking about embodiment, right? I'm like, I need someone with me, next to me. Please go ahead.
No, I was going to say, this is why AI still can't replace,
Yeah,
um, I guess you could say, transmission from the presence of
100%.
another human being that that you feel motivated to work with. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It Pause this for another big long conversation about energetics one day, George. I would love to have that conversation with you and transmission. So I need that to move, and I've been hearing it from my clients, like in part as well. My clients have been asking me this for 2 or 3 years, and because I teach my version of what you've taught me, and all right, I'll stay on topic with the structure. So they've been asking for it. I needed it. And then we need humans around us. We need that co-working. If it's a neurospicy brain, a neurodivergent brain, which a lot of my clients are, then that kind of idea of body doubling can work really well for some people. And I'm sorry, I have to swear. I haven't sworn this whole time, George, but I love this way of saying it, that when we have people around us who give a shit that we get shit done, we will get more shit done.
Perfectly said.
Thank you. So that's the idea. And basically, we're going to meet weekly. We've got a couple of hours. So the first hour, there's a bunch of your content that I can shape, reframe, add some somatic tools into.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And talk people through. So it's like, okay, George said it that way. How does this work in my context? So it's again, what I do beautifully, I think, is me upping myself. But yes,
I
is that
agree.
customization?
Yeah.
You can say something, George, if you want.
No, no. I mean, as you all can see, and I was just telling you the other day, like, Mira, you should make more videos because you are such a good teacher, you're such a good storyteller, and I'm honestly honored that you are translating or like adapting the
Mm,
joyful productivity stuff. I always tell everybody in all of my courses, my content, including my coursework, is open source. I
mm,
welcome anyone who feels inspired by it to take it, adapt it, reteach it in their own way. And I couldn't ask for a better adapter and teacher, reteacher than you. And of course, you have so much of your own original content that you and experiences that you're bringing to this set. It doesn't even have to, whatever you want to call it, right? It's perfectly fine. Anyway, I'm myself am excited about how you're going to be like customizing it for this group.
because what I noticed in your story, George, is really similar. And I mentioned this in one of the other videos I did make, which is that life is very complex for most humans, I think. And what I notice, particularly in the entrepreneurial space, but it applies if you're a student or if, in modern life, we've all got complex lives with multiple moving pieces. So I think it does actually apply to everyone. Bit of a focus on entrepreneurship and what you're talking about, like that level of finding order and organization and ways of structuring information and all sorts of information, somatic information, intellectual information, energetic information, having these rituals and ways of filtering that as it comes in is actually the foundation of everything else. So you and I both have MBAs. I came in, my origin story also, like yours, starts a bit earlier in a different version of myself, where I was a business coach myself. Back in 2015, I think. And I noticed that the obstacles that people were having were not about the information. They weren't their skills, they weren't intellectual, it wasn't knowledge, it was execution, which I think is where you're like, whoop, and consistent execution and emotional regulation or nervous system regulation. And if that is really embedded underneath everything else, then your dreams and your goals and your authentic life and all of that is, I mean, we're living examples, and you coach hundreds of people that have become living examples of that.
Thank you. So well said. Yeah, it's rarely the information. I mean, we all know enough to take enough steps to really get a lot of some good results, at least some good results, which then encourages us to keep going. But yeah, it's the distractions, it's the lack of regular enough self-regulation, right? It's the lack of community around us that are also keeping us helping to keep us on the track that we've created for ourselves. And it's like solopreneurs are too solo. It's like, right. And so this is why
Yeah.
we need something like this. So yeah, so Mira, this is great. You're going to be leading the weekly call. Tell us a little bit about what you envision happening inside that call, like anything you
That's so
want to say
perfect.
about that.
That's what I
Yeah,
wanted to tell you.
yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So the first hour is the adaptation of your method, which you beautifully laid out. So people now, if they are interested, they kind of know what that is. With my interpretations, with the reason I want a small container also is to help that conversational customization. Okay, what's going on in your life? What does that look like for you? What does that look like for you? Let's talk it through. Let's talk it through. What are all the different ways that this might manifest in different types of lives? Because we might have parents in there that are navigating that kind of complexity. We might have entrepreneurs in there, and some of my precious heart people, neurodivergent brains that might have all of these going on as well, right? People who traverse all of those. So that first hour is teaching and mental application. So understanding, okay, these are the different ways it could get applied in different contexts. We work through that together. The second hour is the co-working. And again, with me present, so I'm going to guide people through somatic practices. So they're embodying the regulation consistently throughout it. And we're going to co-work, which I know you do as well. But my idea is that the customized versions of the practices then get applied in the context where people around you give a shit. So you're going to get more shit done. So you actually apply some of it instantly there. Build the thing. If you've got to build a hat manual, let's build a hat manual together. If you've got it, like whatever it is, we get to actually execute together. And I'm still there. I've got what, 4 or 5 years of lived experience of applying your tools as well and doing that, customizing that to myself and customizing that to my various clients and making it fun. This is, we got like, I've got to tell you this, George. I'm so sorry. I'm so excited. I've taught CCC to I've got to keep confidentiality here, but an academic in the arts and with a diagnosis of AUDHD, who came to me in our initial call, like so distressed and crying and I hate my brain kind of conversation, which I have quite often with people. Well, that's what they're saying. I'm not saying that. I'm like, I love your brain, but I'm not going to tell you because that'll overwhelm you right now. So I taught her the color-coded CCC method in my version for neurodivergent brains, which involves whiteboards, and she added colored magnets. And I wish I had her file to hand so I could give you a quote, but I don't have permission actually, so I wouldn't do that anyway. But let's just say I'll get her permission. I know she'll give it to me. After about 6 sessions, I think we've had now, where the focus has been on this neurodivergent application of embodied joyful productivity or joyful productivity embodied. She's crying for the opposite reason now, right? oh, this is fun. I can't believe this is fun, Mira. And I feel okay about myself. And I know how to explain myself to other people. And I know how to work. And she's got whiteboards all around her house.
So amazing. Wow. Oh, this is
Yes.
why I'm so looking forward to seeing this happen because yeah, I love it when people actually do something with the information and like you said,
Hmm.
embody it. And I love this format of okay, it's not just about getting the great insights and the customizing to oneself, Q&A, coaching, etc., but also then immediately applying it. One of the earliest business mentors, I remember he would always say, success in business is so much about speed of implementation. Speed of implementation. When you learn something important, something that's going to be applicable, the sooner you actually do it, the more likely you, well, he didn't say it this way, but embody it so
Yeah.
that you can then, because essentially success is a matter of layer upon layer of better habits
Mm.
or embodiment, layer upon layer of embodiment. Anyway, so this is awesome. I love it, and of course, I'm going to be coming in at least once a month to offer any additional, troubleshooting, coaching, helping people customize it, answering questions, et cetera, et cetera. So
Which is awesome. We're very lucky.
yeah. Yay! No, I'm so excited. Really excited. So how should people find out about this program? All the
So
details.
I've got,
Yeah,
yeah,
applying
I'll give
for it.
you, ooh, am I going blurry? I've got a link on my website, George, that I'll
I'll make
send
sure
you.
to put that link wherever
Yeah,
people are seeing this video. Yeah.
just go there. That's the starting point. And then at the moment, there's a waiting list, an email list that you can sign up to and get the updates and the information over the next few weeks. Oh, should we tell them when it's starting?
Oh, I'm going to say no because this this could be seen again when the program, re-enrolls people in the
Yeah,
future. So that's perfect, right? So, but
great.
but
Go
we'll
to my
have that in
website.
whenever, yeah, go to the website, sign up for the waiting list, and when there are spots open, you'll hear about it. Probably the best way of saying.
That is a very good way to say it. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Perfect.
So okay. Thank you, Mira. Thank you so much for the idea, inspiring the idea, and kind of bringing me in such a fun and working lightly way.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk way more about that. And thank you, George, for saying yes and lending us your incredible expertise and helping me
Yeah.
spread
Oh,
this out into the world and making the
sure.
world more joyful,
That's
making the
right.
world more embodied,
Yes.
and get that little bit in the
Sure.
spiritually connected and embodied in this age of AI.
Yeah. I love it. That's a great way of ending. So may everyone watching this feel uplifted and inspired to, in whatever way that you know how already, to apply your own joyful productivity into your own work, to your own life, applied your own embodied living, loving, and leading, not in that order, loving, living, and leading into your life. So thank you all for watching. Thanks. Check out the link to sign up for the waiting list and see you all next time. Thank you, Mira.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.